very agile an approach, and it's really the driver beyond Fiori. The second thing will be Fiori itself. And the one thing that I want to emphasize is we're not going to present Fiori today as the evolution of mobility. We're going to present it today as the evolution of the SAP user experience. Fiori is beyond mobility. It changes the way we interact with our SAP systems, whether we're on-premise or we're accessing from a mobile device. And I really want to make sure that we understand that concept today. And the third thing is, how do we approach this from an implementation perspective? How do we get started on Fiori? How do we deploy it rapidly? So with those three things in mind, design thinking, Fiori, and approach to implementation, I'm going to hand today's webinar over to Brandon Lage. Brandon leads our mobility and Fiori practice, and he's going to run the rest of the webinar today. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob, and thanks, Kate, and thank you, everyone, for attending. We've got a lot to go through today, and so I'm just going to go ahead and dive right in. So the agenda for today, of course, introductions, and it looks like we're through that. And then I want to spend 5 minutes, as Rob mentioned, on design thinking. And this is not a design thinking webinar, but what design thinking, at least the concepts will do, is lay the groundwork for what SAP went through in their design of Fiori and what we carry forward in implementing with our customers. And then we'll talk about what is Fiori, what does it look like, how do you get there, what is required to get it put in. And then I've got a good demo. We've got about 6 Fiori applications that we're going to run through, and you'll get to see it firsthand. And then the question at the end is to you, and that is, how can this apply to your business? So how can you take these concepts of design thinking and changing how users interact with the system and apply them to your business? Of course, as Kate mentioned, please put any questions in the chat box. We'll ask or answer them as time permits at the end. So this whole demo should take about 30 minutes or so, so we'll have plenty of time for Q&A at the end. Okay, so Fiori is based on design thinking. And what is design thinking? Design thinking is an approach to problem solving with a suite of tools designed to promote innovative, not incremental solutions. And basically what design thinking comes down to is looking at problems from the human side of things. So instead of looking at a technical solution, or instead of looking at what SAP can do in general, it's how do humans interact with SAP and how can we make that interaction better? What technologies exist that people use in the consumer world that we can pull over easily into the SAP world? What experiences can we pull over? What do people like about buying something online on Amazon or something, and how can we bring that over into SAP? So design thinking is a methodology of solving problems, and ultimately design thinking is an incubator for disruptive innovation. So if you think of the major innovators throughout history, a lot of them had those design thinking principles behind them. How can we use what we have to solve a problem that people may or may not know they have yet? So just a couple of examples of design thinking. The first one, of course, Thomas Edison. He's got over 1,000 patents to his name, including the light bulb and the phonograph. And there are some key learnings from him. Obviously, very smart thinker, an innovator in the truest sense. And the first learning we can get from Thomas Edison is that the light bulb would have been unsuccessful on its own. So light bulb, great invention. Obviously use it today everywhere. But without the infrastructure and without the industry around the light bulb would have been a cool innovation in a lab. But he provided the ability for people to get power to their homes and light their homes. So he saw much more than a piece of technology and said, how can we use this to change people's lives? And then the phonograph, and the phonograph is a great example of listening to your customers because he had originally designed it to be a way to record and play back dictation. But what people wanted was a way to record and play back music. And that by listening to his consumers, he gave them an invention and then allowed them to repurpose it based on what they wanted. And then the next example of design thinking, of course, Steve Jobs and his company Apple. And the important thing to know about Steve Jobs is he knew what innovations people would need before, one, that they knew they needed them, and two, before the technology was there. There's a cool interview of him in 1984 describing what would eventually become the iPad, but the technology just wasn't there. So sometimes technology is not in the right place at the right time, but the ideas are there and can later be enabled. And then with the iPod, we didn't even know we needed an iPod until it was put in our hands and we had iTunes to fill it. So he created a market and gave us something that we didn't know we needed. So ultimately, the goal of design thinking is to find innovation. And we do this by combining three items. We combine viability, which is, from a business perspective, does this make sense? Is it cost effective? Does it work within our corporate environment? The next is technical feasibility. So we couldn't put together an iPad in 1984, but we can put together an iPad in 2014 because technically we're ready and we've got enough technical ability behind us to make that idea come to fruition. And third, and most importantly, is human desirability. So do people actually want to use an iPad? They absolutely do. And there's a reason they want to use it, because it's easy to use, it's straightforward, and anybody can get it. A 5-year-old can use an iPad. So how do we take those concepts and apply them to mobility? And what SAP did was they put together Fiori. So let's take a look at those three concepts. So first, desirability. On the human side, how do we make mobility consumer grade? We focus on user interaction. I want to create a sales order like I'm ordering something off of Amazon. And I want to be able to do this on my phone and on my iPad and then, of course, on my desktop. But I want the desktop interaction to be better. And that same interaction should carry between devices, and it should not be hard to put in. So technically, how do we make this feasible? How do we make mobility quick to implement and easy to maintain? Again, everybody's got a different smartphone, a different tablet. New form factors are coming out all the time. How do we make this flexible? And the answer was a standardized communication channel in OData. So the NetWeaver Gateway uses the OData protocol to communicate back into SAP. This is standard, and it's what Fiori is built on. We make sure our environment is highly secure, and we have a responsive development language in HTML5, and SAP's got a derivative called UI5, and all of the Fiori applications are developed in this language to be responsive to device. And then, of course, I want a simple system architecture. I don't want the technical guys to have to maintain 4 servers to get from the device back into ECC or CRM or SRM or whatever we're going to in the back end. This needs to be simple so that I can maintain it easily go forward. And then from a business perspective, how do we make this viable for every business? How do we make it affordable? We've got pre-developed applications based on design thinking. So all of that innovation work is done. What we're doing is putting in applications that already exist, that work out of the box with standard SAP, and making extensions as needed per customer. So the idea is that we cover 90% of what most users already do in the system. I should not have to log into the GUI to create a sales order or to check on a shipment or to approve a purchase requisition. All of those things can be done from device right now. Make applications easy to customize, right down to, and I'll show it to you in a bit, my personal dashboard. I can move around what applications I have where, and group things based on my workflow, customized to me, the user. Measure success and user acceptance. So, of course, if users aren't using it, the best applications are worthless. And then a low-cost licensing model. So the Fiori license, retail is $150 a user, which from an SAP perspective is pretty low on the licensing cost side, and that's it. Every user needs to be a user in SAP, as most are, and the gateway license is included as part of your ECC license already. And then to make this viable for a business, we need project plans for days or weeks, not months. We're talking 3 to 4 weeks to get a lot of these applications stood up from nothing. So the timelines are extremely short, and we're able to get these applications rolled out quickly to get them in the hands of users. So what is Fiori? Fiori is a collection of apps with simple and easy to use user experience. So there are 227 apps out there right now, and this list is actually old because this week there were some more announced. So they're coming out very quickly. They're coming out from SAP. They're coming out from partners. There's a lot going on in the Fiori space right now because everything has a common framework, and applications are very easy to stand up. So works seamlessly across devices, as mentioned, desktop, tablet, or smartphone, and it uses SAP's UI5, which is their HTML5 derivative, and then the SAP NetWeaver gateway. So I can take an existing app, very easily add whatever fields I need to the gateway service back into ECC, and then I make that extension on the front end in UI5, and then I'm done. I maintain that consistent look and feel throughout all the Fiori applications. Okay, so what does this mean? It means that users interact in a way with SAP not possible before. It means the end of the SAP GUI as we know it. This picture here is a picture of a fact sheet, and it's instead of going into SAP and figuring out, how many invoices do I have late, how much is this customer ordering from me, just key figures about a customer. In one page, I can pull up a customer fact sheet, and I know sales volume. I know, any dunning alerts. I know how overdue they are on their invoices. I know how far behind they are. I know a lot of different things about that customer in one screen instead of having to log into 10 different screens in ECC. And by the way, this can sit on HANA, so this data that comes back will come back very quickly. It'll be very deep data that would take me a very long time to get any other way besides using Fiori. So I've alluded to types of Fiori applications. We've got 3 main types of Fiori applications. We've got transactional apps, which you're going to see today, and they let you perform common tasks. So create sales orders, leave requests, approve PRs, approve POs. All of those common transactional tasks are handled by a current catalog of 61 Fiori applications. And then we've got fact sheets and analytical apps to the tune of 83 applications. And fact sheets are, like the one I just showed you, are key operational data across various functions. So these can be on the finance side, these can be on the SD side, CRM side, SRM. All sorts of fact sheets are out there that provide a lot of information that would take a long time to derive without the ability to pull it up in one single sheet. And then analytical apps are key analytical data throughout the business, so sales performance, cycle times, and that sort of thing. I have included at the end of this presentation a link to the current Fiori catalog that does update, it seems like, on a daily basis, which you'll get a copy of this deck and you can go and take a look at what's already out there. And those apps are done and ready to put in. Okay, so what does the architecture look like? What do I need to have in if I wanted to put in Fiori? So the Transactional App Architecture is the simplest, and all it is your existing ECC box and then the NetWeaver gateway. So you need the NetWeaver gateway and all of the application components for Fiori because it's technically a web app. All of those applications exist on the NetWeaver gateway. So you need to put up one server, potentially a dev and production instance, of course, one server for the gateway and to contain the application components. And then there's another component called SAP Web Dispatcher that needs to be installed as well as part of the stand-up. For transactional applications, SAP HANA is optional. So this, for our customers, has been a good place to start because not a lot of customers are on ECC on HANA yet. They will be very shortly, but this is a good place to start because all you need is ECC 6.0. There are some patch requirements that need to be met to get going on transactional apps. Okay. And then fact sheet is very similar to transactional apps, except that now HANA is required because we are working through so much data and providing a lot of data on one concise fact sheet. HANA does need to be running in the background to manage all of the hardcore data crunching in the back end. As is true with the analytical apps. So the analytical apps require HANA and then the HANA XS engine to work properly. Okay. So with that, I want to jump into demo, and again, this is about a 25 or so minute demo. But what I want to do is kind of level set everyone. So I want to start in SAP, the SAP GUI, and the demo we're running today, we're actually going to run two demos. We're going to do a demo of a PR approval, and then we're going to do a demo of the sales applications that exist within Fiori right now. So we'll actually start with the sales application. So in our demonstration, we're selling motorcycle parts. So I'm going to actually create an order like I would in SAP, and then we'll do the same thing in Fiori, and you can see the difference. So I'm in SAP. Most people will have their common transactions saved as favorites, so I will just jump in and do that. To create an order, I'll need to know the order type, and then the sales area. And then this is, the standard SAP order entry screen. If I don't know my customer number, I'm going to have to look it up. Let me do that quick. Okay, and for today, we're going to sell to this Italian Moto Inc. We're selling Ducati parts. So here we go. I need to get the ship to as well. Okay, I need a PO number. And let's call this one Fiori Demo 5/21, 11:20 a.m. Because what we're going to do is we're going to see it in Fiori. So if I don't know the material, I'm going to need to search for it. And we'll sell some brake pads. And let's get one more material in here. We'll sell a windshield too. I want one of each of those. And then if I want to see availability, I can do a quick availability check. Whoops, let me select it here. And then see, yep, looks like I'll have the quantity. That's great. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and save the order. And you'll see that I saved order number 306. So let's jump into Fiori. Okay. So I am now in SAP Fiori. And it's going to look a lot like a web page, because it is. And I'm running this on a desktop. This will adjust, and let me show you here, this will adjust to change in window size. So you'll see the icons get smaller, and eventually they're going to start rearranging. So this is more how it's going to look on your phone. All I'm doing is changing screen size. There's no difference in what I'm doing. As long as my device understands HTML5, it's going to work with Fiori. So this is pretty much the standard dashboard. The only thing that we've done is we changed the logo to Dickinson, and then we've added a custom news feed here. So you'll see that we've got Twitter coming across here, and because we're gearing up for Sapphire in a couple of weeks, we've actually created a custom news feed that's going to have a lot of our relevant information in it. So it will have our tweets and then anything that's tagged as Sapphire now. And this news feed is customizable, and you can have up to 15 RSS feeds. So you can have a custom news feed based on whatever you might like in there, information about your customers, things like that. You'll notice then that I've got my sales apps in here. I've got 5 tiles, and then I've got approvals down here. And these are the two demos we're going to do today. But before we do that, I want to show you a little bit about what you can do to customize your Fiori Launchpad. So these icons can be moved wherever you'd like. They can also be switched between groups. And all I'm doing is clicking and dragging, and these things are moving around for me. This will stay the same. If I log out, log back in, it'll stay the way I left it. Additionally, if I want to create more groupings, I can do that, and I'm actually going to do that today. So I'll show you the tile catalog, but right now I've got 3 groups. I've got Newsfeed, I've got Brand and Sales Apps, and I've got Approvals. I want to add one more, and we'll just call this one a test group because we're going to get rid of it. So in that group, I click on Add, and actually what this does is it shows me all the tiles that I, as a user, have the ability to use. So this is by user ID. So I won't necessarily have all the production applications or tiles, but because I'm a salesperson, I will have the sales tiles. So I'm going to add track shipments to that test. Okay, let me see here. Get this added track shipments. Try this again. There's my tile. And let me add that track shipments tile to the track shipments group. Okay, it's in there. And then you'll see I've got a track shipments tile at the bottom of my grouping here. And I don't really want to keep this on here. I just wanted to give a demo, so I'm actually going to get rid of this. And this is mostly drag and drop. So I take track shipments, and you'll see that as soon as I picked it up, in the lower right-hand corner of my screen, a little trash can shows up. So I just drag it over in the corner, and it's gone. Okay? And if I want to get rid of that grouping, I open up the groups, and I say track shipments, and I want to trash that too. Yes, I'm okay with that. And then I'm back to where I started. Pretty cool. So let's look at that sales order that I just created over in SAP. So I'm going to go to the Create Sales Order tile. And so I've got this Fiori demo 521, 1120, and it looks like it cut off to 0. But that's the order I just created over in SAP that's now here in Fiori. And there's a couple of cool things that our customers are loving about just Create Sales Order in general, because a lot of customers want to copy the last order they created. So I ordered from you guys a month ago. I want the same thing again, but I want to add a couple things or change quantities. Fiori makes it very easy to do that, because what I can do is look at their previous sales orders and say I want to copy exactly what I ordered, sales order number 304. I just go to that sales order and I say Add to Cart. And that will add, and you'll see this changed up here in the corner, that will add all of the items from that sales order to my cart, which is pretty cool. So let me go ahead and buy these items. So I've added, I want to take a copy of that order, and I'm just going to check out. The one thing you'll notice is that with Fiori, we've got the ability out of the box to add product images. So remember those brake pads I ordered in SAP? In SAP, I don't necessarily know what those look like. In Fiori, I do, because I've made the association between a product image and a product. The same with the windshield. So this windshield, product number 71, I want, actually let me increase that quantity to 3, and then I'll make this one 2, and I can change my requested delivery date from here, but for our demo I'm just going to leave it there. And then I want to go ahead and check out. So I check out just like I'm on Amazon. Okay, I don't need a single shipment. And this screen actually did a few things that's pretty cool, but it happened behind the scenes. So obviously I've got my quantities. What it did is it took that quantity and it said, here's my date, and then it did an ATP check. So I actually went back into SAP, I checked, hey, can I meet this date? And it says, yeah, you're green, you're as requested. It also went out and checked the price, but because I'm Italian Moto and I'm ordering these parts, it checked the price for me as a customer. It comes up with my order total, and I want to review my shipping options now. So let me add a new purchase order. So let's call this one order from Fiori 521. This is shipping to the address of the ship to, of course. Here's some instructions and notes. And those will actually write back to order text in SAP. So I'm going to review this order. And the ship to looks good. The order looks good. I've got my tax calculated. Of course, that comes out of SAP. And then I'm going to go ahead and place this order. And you'll see that we just created order number 307 in the system, which is pretty cool. Okay, so let me go back home. And I don't like check price and availability here, so let's move it back. And I want to go in and change that. So the customer calls me up and says, hey, you just created order number 307 in Fiori. That's great. However, I want to ship this to a different address. I want to ship this brake pads to Chicago instead. Can you help me with that? Sure, not a problem. So I click on that item, and I can go in and change the address. So let's actually ship it to the Dickinson office for whatever reason. Chicago, Illinois. Okay. And then you'll notice that it's telling me that there are going to be some changes in total if I make this change. So I'm okay with that. Okay. And then my changes are saved. So that sales order has been changed now right from Fiori. Okay. Let's look at track sales order. Oops. Okay. Like our link is linking right back to change. But what track allows you to do is it allows you to check on the shipment status. So I've actually created numbers out here that are in different stages in the delivery process. So if I click on that order, I can see that 4 schedule lines are in process, that they've been delivered, but they have not been PGI'd yet. So if a customer comes up and asks, hey, where's my order, I can at least say, you know, we've created a delivery for it, it's just not at the door yet. Additionally, I've got an order down here that has already been shipped. So it's no longer in process, it has been shipped, and I can see that it is 100% shipped. So that's what you can do with track status. Okay, let's back out again. Check price and availability is actually really cool, and it's blindingly simple, but a lot of customers need it. And it's, I'm at a trade show, or I am out with the customer, and I just want to know if I ordered 10 of these, how much am I going to pay, and when can I get it? So let's look at this dry clutch cup Ducati. You'll see again we have our product image. We've got information about that product, and then let's say I want 10 of these, and I want them today. I really need them. I would like them today, please. I go ahead and check that, and what it does in just a few seconds, it goes back to SAP and says, here's your list price, here's what you're actually going to pay, and here's your delivery date. If a customer was at a trade show and they were receiving special trade show pricing, that of course would be on what is my price today in the system if I were to order it. So this is a pretty cool feature and an application that a lot of our customers like. So the other one I wanted to look at is customer invoices. So I'm walking into a customer, and I know that this customer, it looks like, is Walmart, and they're late on invoices. So I've got a bunch of invoices out here, and I can go follow up with that customer while I'm in the office. So what I've got here is their invoice number, of course, the PO, the totals, and what they ordered against that sales order. So this is a very quick way to walk into a customer and say, hey, we need to make sure we're keeping up on invoices here. Okay? So the other thing I wanted, so that's in general transactional apps, and there's applications out there for procurement and all sorts of things. But there's also an approval.
I think we might have lost Brandon for a moment here. I apologize for that. I heard a hang up, and hopefully Brandon's going to dial back in here in a second. I think there were a few questions that came through while Brandon was demonstrating it. I probably can answer. The first was, are we showing transactional apps today, or some of them fact sheets? Everything that we've shown today are transactional apps in the sales area. So that's one question that I'd like to answer. The other question that came through earlier that I hope we provided some clarity on was the implications of HANA. As Brandon outlined, and I hope this was clear, the transactional apps do not require HANA, but the fact sheets and analytical apps do. Brandon, are you back?
Rob, I'm back. I apologize, guys. My headset dropped, so gotta love technology. So can I get back into my demo, Rob?
Yep, you're good.
Cool. All right, so we're going to do approve requisitions as well. And you'll see here that I've got 202 requisitions out here that need to be approved. But I'm actually going to start in SAP. So if I jump back over to SAP, for those of you that are running workflow, this will make a lot of sense. I go into the SAP Business Workplace, and I go to my inbox, and I see that I've got workflow items out here. And actually, in SAP, I've got 203. They're creating data as we speak for demos over the next couple of weeks. So these numbers may not be exactly the same. But you'll see that I've got items out here to approve in workflow. And I can take these, this employee uniforms approval request, and I can either approve it here, or I can approve it back in Fiori. So I'm actually going to leave it here, and I'm going to approve it in Fiori. If I go into approve requisitions, you'll see employee uniforms. That was the first one on my list there, and it's the first one on my list here. And so I can review it. I know what GL account we're hitting. I know how much everything is. I've got notes here for that, and then what I'm going to do, and this is for $400, it's PR number 2085. I'm going to approve it. And I have notes. Good, okay, and then I hit OK. And then, so the purchase requisition was approved. If I go back into SAP, I can see in my outbox, work items executed by me, 2085. That's the one I just approved from Fiori. So you can see that the interaction with SAP is absolutely real time. And again, if I wanted to make this approval on a mobile device or something like that, I can do that as well. So let's go back to Fiori, and let's do a couple of different things that you can do out of the box with PR approvals, which is, one is reject. No way. Okay. Hit OK. So I rejected that requisition. And then the other thing you can do is forward, and this is forward, of course, to users in your system. So let me search for a T. We'll probably have a bunch of test users on here. Oh, here's Todd. So I'll forward this one back over to Todd. Please provide more info. Okay. And then that person can review that requisition. And again, anything I've processed, if I go back over to SAP, anything I have processed will show up in my outbox. Now the forward won't, this requisition release will. Okay? So that is the extent of my demo. Again, sorry for the dropped call, but we're through the demo. Rob or Kate, do we have any questions that can be answered at this point that have come across?
Yes, we've got a couple of questions. One is, are customizations just for IT personnel to develop, or can we as employees create customizations? What are the customizations other than just UI?
Yeah, so from an end user perspective, a lot of the customizations are around strictly around UI and where do I want things, how do I want things grouped, and how can I best make use of the groupings in Fiori. from an IT perspective and what can be done by the business, you know, pretty relatively simple development. I mean, I hate to say the sky's the limit, but whatever kind of customizations you want that fit within the framework of the business process can be done. So if I need to add fields, or if I want to create a couple of different order types, you know, one for trade shows and one for regular orders, I can add that customization. And again, all that is the customization in the NetWeaver gateway to add that to the OData communication back. And then, of course, the front-end application needs to be enhanced as well, but those enhancements are pretty lightweight compared to what we've had to do in the past with mobile.
Okay, another question that we have is, online I see that Fiori is targeted more towards managers to employee relationships. How does it relate to the customers? How can it benefit the customers, and how can we use it to make business decisions?
Sure. So from a customer perspective, and I'm assuming they're talking about how I relate to my customers, a lot of this data allows us to interact with our customers better. At least in the fact sheet example, you know, I can walk into a customer and know pretty well what their status is, and that allows me to, you know, have a better meeting or have a more informed meeting with them, to know what they've ordered and to have a pretty good idea of, you know, things that are outstanding with that customer. So I think it allows me to interact with my customers better. And then as far as making business decisions, a lot of these analytical and fact sheet applications are made for providing exactly the data you need to make a decision. I mean, it shouldn't take 5 or 10 transactions to be informed enough to make a decision anymore. It should be pull up a quick app, let Fiori sync, let HANA crunch the data, and then provide what information is needed to make that decision.
Great. Another question is, what are the requirements needed in order to get Fiori?
Sure. Yeah. Let's jump back over to the slide here. Let me find it just a second. So back to the landscape. The only requirement for technical or for transactional apps is that you put up the NetWeaver gateway and then you get the web dispatcher installed. So again, a lot of our customers don't have the gateway yet. A few do, but a lot don't. If you've already got the gateway up and running, you just need to make sure you're patched up high enough, and then we can put in the applications right in that system. If you don't, you do need to get that spun up. The time to get a gateway instance spun up is usually a week or two, and then to get applications installed, it's just a few days. So like these sales apps that we had put in would probably take about 3 to 4 weeks from absolute nothing, just I only have SAP ECC, to I'm now creating sales orders and running all of those tasks off of my iPad.
Okay, and what is the difference between Fiori and personas?
Yeah, so we actually get that question quite a bit. So Fiori is a suite of pre-developed applications. So they're applications that are built in HTML5, made for mobile, and allow customers to interact with the system across devices. Personas is a way to customize existing SAP screens, and it is Dinpro based, so I can access it from the web, and it does allow me to limit what fields I see and only get to exactly what I need to get the work done. So personas is a little bit simpler. I mean, a little bit less flexible. What we can do with Fiori is pretty well sky the limit, but personas does have its place, especially as we're talking experience. If I only need 5 or 6 fields to create an order, and I'm okay doing that in basically an SAP screen, that's got its place as well.
Okay. Is there an ability to change things like theme, colors, fonts, and images to conform to an organization's mobile style guide?
Absolutely, yeah. We actually, let me see if I can pull it up here. So we've got a more Dickinson-centric version of the Fiori dashboard that we've been working on over the last couple of days. So I'll see if I can pull up a link to it. But yes, absolutely. So it's CSS styling. So anything you can do with the CSS file, you can do to Fiori. So there are some kind of standards where colors carry through to all applications. So if you want custom colors based on application, that gets a little bit more complicated. But SAP has made it very easy to customize the CSS to what your organization would be.
Looking to see if we have any more. Just a second.
Okay. And actually, I'm pulling it over into the window here. This is something that we're working on for Sapphire. So there are a few things that have changed here. The green bar at the top is different. If you jump into Create Sales Order, you'll see that this is different. There are a few fonts we need to clean up. This green button is going to be a little bit less green. But you'll see that this is different than what is in traditional SAP Fiori, and that's just by making a couple of changes to the existing CSS. So the change is pretty flexible and pretty quick.
Great. Thank you, Brandon. We're going to hand this back over to Rob.
Thanks, Kate. And just to the attendees, if there are other questions that we didn't get to answer today, we'll certainly follow up on those. In summary, we went through a lot today, and I hope, again, that the takeaway was that design thinking is a new concept and approach to application development that really serves as the foundation of Fiori. From a Fiori perspective, there's two things that jump out to me when I'm watching this type of webinar and I'm looking at the application. One is simplicity. For those of us that have been around SAP for a long time, we know that the screens can be somewhat complex. So simplicity, I think, is somewhat of a relief to all of us. And efficiency, when I look at this, I see how many more transactions can I process in a day? What does this mean to my workforce? What does this mean to my workforce from an efficiency perspective? So I think that Fiori has the opportunity to be somewhat transformational to the way we interact with SAP. The third thing that we really didn't discuss, but I just want to touch base on, is what our approach to implementation is. There are some technical prerequisites. Brandon spoke about HANA requirements versus non-HANA requirements. He spoke about gateway. There's also some functional dependencies. So what we've done and what we're moving towards is a model where what Dickinson and Associates will work through those dependencies via checklist and determine if your organization is positioned for Fiori. And then what we are doing is packaging the most common Fiori applications. Today we focused on transactional apps and sales and distribution. So we're going to package those in an offering so that we can both anticipate cost and duration for implementation, which is very, very important because the intention is to deploy these rapidly. So I would encourage anybody attending today's session, if they have questions about the technology, about our approach to deployment, then please reach out to us. And we look forward to you attending more of our webinars. Our next one is on geospatial dashboarding and integration with HANA. And we thank everybody for their time today. Kate, that sums up our webinar, and I'll hand back to you.
All right, I think that's all we have for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your week.